Hi, I'm Sampa The Great. Join me on Fronts 24 to talk about my music and my life.
Female energy, 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 times sorrows. Carry all
2019 has been a massive year for Melbourne-based hip-hop artist Sampa The Great, who's been dropping her flow since primary school. The 26-year-old has just released her first album and is currently touring Europe. I caught up with her to discuss her career, her self-affirmation, and how she fully embraced her roots. I want to say your album, The Return, is incredible.
Thank you.
It's a mixture of, there's some jazz, there's some Afrobeat, there's
Yeah.
also sounds that are very 60s, 70s. You go back to your African roots a lot in it.
Yeah.
What was your mood when you were recording it?
There was so much happening. I came off of the bat of my last project, BB9, knowing that, I wanted to actually return to the story of who I am and give my narrative for myself. I'm based in Australia and, a lot of the media outside of Australia sees me as Australian but doesn't know my full story of being Zambian and raised in Botswana. So part of the inspiration was to be like, this is my full story. This is where I'm from. I'm going to show you where I'm from and the people around where I'm from and my parents and just give you an insight to who I am. So once that happened, genre-wise, we were going everywhere. So I didn't want to have control on the final sound of what the album was. So if there were hip-hop influences, they're going to be there. If there was soul influences, if there was, roots influence, Afrobeat influence, I was going to put everything in one.
And the reception's been amazing.
It's been really dope.
Yeah, you got a sold-out tour in Europe. You've just been nominated for the J Awards in Australia. And obviously your album's done really well. How does it feel after this year?
It's relief because, you do the album, you know what you're about to release. It's 19 songs, so you worry how people are going to take it. And all you can do is just give people your story and hope they connect with it. And that's what we did. So I'm happy that people connected with it.
credit my maker, take a trip to see Jamaica. Molly spirit with the vapor, back to Zion, that's the nature. Africa, the new America. I hope I earn this permanent. And this I put my pen in it, got my land and my permit with it. Bone on my bone, flesh off my flesh. Greatness in me, you can't make me feel less. Let's hold, I'm not impressed. Best smoke, got my afro like an empress.
They say home is where the heart is.
Yes.
You were born in Zambia,
Yeah.
you grew up in Botswana, you studied in the US a bit, and then you moved to Australia in 2014.
Yeah.
Where's your heart?
My heart is in Botswana.
Yeah.
Zambia and Botswana are where my family is, where I feel most like myself, where I can let my guard down, and where I know that, I'm always welcomed. And that, to me, is where home is.
And so going back to your African roots, do you think you couldn't have done it earlier? Did you feel like being a bit older and maybe more at ease with your art and your craftsmanship that helped you embrace it? Or?
Yeah, it was. I was always, I was raised at home, so it was always a part of me. What I really wanted to do was introduce that to my audience because it felt like they didn't know a part of my story. And with doing that, I had to go home and actually reintroduce them and myself to, Sampa The Great, the musician. So I had my first shows at home that I hadn't even had because I started my professional career in Australia. And it was more of a reintroduction for me, but an introduction to the world about who I am and what I'm about.
Mm-hmm. And how much did it defer playing for example, in Australia, to go back?
I had my cousins in the front row, and, they've seen me perform for them in our living room, and they've just not seen me perform as Sampa The Great. So it was just a bit more, intimate because it's people who you know and you've grown up with right in the front row supporting you.
God at its finest, wonder why Optimum Prime is. Never underestimate your highness. Stripped in melanin, galaxy's finest. But I be the pressure on the spirit of the highest. Do it, I will. Do it, I will. If they don't believe me, then you betcha I will. If they don't believe me, then you betcha I will. Better big up your love for the betcha I chill. Flow. Oh my gosh. Where man go? Oh my gosh. If I'm not seeing it. Oh my gosh. I guess you never know what you got till it.
Sampa's your real name.
Yeah.
How did you bring the attachment?
Great.
The Great. Where does that come from?
You start as a young artist, you're not all that confident. And all you want to be is the best version of yourself. So I put the Great aside for something to aspire to be.
You've given a TED Talk before, and that made me smile because I also went to a show recently of another hip-hop artist from the US who's exploded this year, Lizzo, who said, it's part TED Talk, part concert.
Yeah, it was. It was a show where I actually got to talk a little bit about, myself and, being able to use music as a language. Because I think what I've learned in being in all these different places is we do connect with that one element. Even though it's in a different language that you don't understand, you connect with the vibrations of what the sound is about. So I wanted to, present that thought to them before I did the concert. So it was like a mini concert, mini talk.
And I think it's really interesting that hip-hop and women in hip-hop are also able to, do the style they want, because before you'd see like they were either the R&B sweet singer or they were the aggressive Lil' Kim. And I think you and Lizzo, you embrace self-love. That's a good thing if you've got in common. And also, I think, is that suggesting a change in hip-hop where sensitivity, it's not like, fake it to make it, it's...
100%. And it would be really boring if we all sounded the same. And I think what's happened is we're allowed to be everything at once as well. You're saying you're either this or you're either that, but you can also be both. You can be smart and intelligent and sexy and a hard rapper in one, because you're a human being with all these emotions within you. So I think we're getting to that point, and I'm happy about that.
Times up, Black Republic, on my work published. How many times I inspired your rhymes, then you be dubbed it. We the inspiration, we the motivation. Take ideas, then you be shutting in variation.
I love so many tracks on this record, and there's one that stood out because you've got a little interlude beforehand, and the one is Time's Up, which obviously reminds us of, Time's Up, Me Too, but also because of the content of the song, Black Lives Matter. What inspired this song?
Just being at that point in my career where it's like we can actually see the barrier for us. The Australian hip-hop industry, we're actually at a point where things are starting to change. You're seeing more young people of color be in the forefront. And with that comes, is this a fad? Is this a trend? Because what we want is this to be an actual change. And so, you have to address it and be like, okay, we need to know why this happened in the first place, which was you created the barriers. But time's up, because we all know that it's about to change, and we're going to be a part of that change.
I wrote this psychosis for sisters like me, with skin as dark as the night that shines so effortlessly. I wrote this for my sister, who looks in the mirror and calls out to beauty, who can no longer see her.
That's super inspiring. I think what's interesting, I remember reading that when you were really little, when you started rapping, it was in Botswana when you were at school. Is that right? And at the time, it was only the boys who kind of dominated the rapping, and you were kind of like...
And that's primary school. That's not even like the main market. And you're there like, this is a thing that I love to do. And, I was in school and these group of boys were performing, and I was like, hip hop, man, I love that. I write raps as well. And they finished, and I went to them and I was like, can I join you? And they were like, no, you can't, you're a girl. I was like, I'm pretty sure I actually even rap better than you, first of all. But it was one of the first barriers you see in, you wanting to express yourself as a Black woman, is someone saying you can't do this because of that. And I looked around and I saw women who were at Missy Elliott, Lauryn. I saw them and they were doing amazing work.
I can sense your black girl magic. I can feel it in the air. It's so strong, it's like a magnet. You would think that God is here.
Later on in your life, did you ever face other discrimination for being a woman in hip-hop?
100%. In being a person who not only loves music, but, wants her music to grow and her business to grow and give opportunities to young women like me, you're always faced with, being in a genre that is dominated by males, and how you carry yourself in that, and how you speak and the spaces you want to create are really tough. And I found those barriers for me. But I've also looked at it as, I'm walking into this room and I'm not going to ask you for permission to be who I am or do what I love. And that's the same thing I look at it when I'm going into the industry. So there are barriers there, but I don't let them, stop me.
You've mentioned Lauryn Hill. You supported her, and you've also supported Nas, who are like huge, amazing artists. What was that like?
Insane. She's amazing. a lot of people don't get to meet their heroes and have good experiences, but I've met her more than once, like 6 or 7 times, and actually even talked to her just, face to face, had a conversation, and she's amazing. And it's beautiful to have someone of that influence and a person who's inspired my career so much be so encouraging to me.
Did they give you any tips?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. Your music is important. I've listened to it. What are you working on now? And I had actually finished my album. I was like, we're gonna hold the album if you can be on it. But yeah, she's been encouraging to me always.
At the end of September, you released your first album. Are you already working on the second one?
19 songs is a lot, and I'm still delving in the album as well, because there are new revelations that are coming to me as well. I've never released a project so long, and I think now I'm just delving into where I was when I released this project and where that direction will take me to. So the answer is not yet.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank
talk
you
to
so
us.
much for having me.
Good God, diamond in the rough. Wonder why they spit it looking shiny and lush. Spit shine, vibe with time. Knew it was a matter of course, they all force. Like Morse, like you when you're lost. Now they shy eyeing when you speedy on your growth. Gosh, I expect the most. Lost within the politics of looking like a boss.